You've probably heard of some pretty unusual religions, but I promise you, nothing prepares you for this one. What if I told you there is an official, rapidly growing church that doesn't worship a god in the clouds, but a man who wore a jersey? A church with its own 10 commandments, its own version of the Lord's Prayer, its own calendar that literally starts counting years from the day this man was born. Welcome to the Iglesia Maradoniana, the actual legally recognized Church of Diego Maradona.
Primero, la pelota no se mancha. Segundo, amar al fútbol por sobre todas las cosas. Tercero, declarar tu amor incondicional por Diego y el buen fútbol. Cuarto, defender la...
And trust me, by the time I explain the details of this religion, you are going to be absolutely speechless. But that's just the opening act, because this is Argentina. A country that gave the world tango, the modern steak dinner, 2 popes worth of Catholic devotion sitting right alongside a literal football religion, a government that has defaulted on its debt more times than almost any country on earth, and yet still produces some of the wealthiest, most luxurious lifestyles in all of South America. By the end of this video, you'll understand the glaciers, the government grants nobody expects, the laws that will genuinely surprise you, and the real, everyday life of over 46 million people who somehow make chaos look glamorous. This is the full, uncovered story of Argentina. Let's begin. Look at a map of South America, and Argentina is impossible to miss. A long, narrow blade of land running almost 3,700 kilometers from top to bottom, more than 2,300 miles, stretching from the subtropical north all the way down to the edge of Antarctica itself. It's the second largest country in South America by land area, and the 8th largest country on the entire planet, covering roughly 2.8 million square kilometers, a little over 1 million square miles. To put that in perspective, you could fit the entire country of France inside Argentina 5 times over, with room left to spare. It borders 5 countries. Chile forms almost the entire western edge, running along the spine of the Andes Mountains. Bolivia and Paraguay sit to the north. Brazil touches the northeast corner, and Uruguay lies across the water to the east, separated by the wide brown mouth of the Rio de la Plata. And here's what makes Argentina genuinely unique on Earth. Because it stretches so far north to south, it contains an almost absurd range of climates and landscapes inside one single country. In the north, you have subtropical jungle and waterfalls. In the center, you have the Pampas, endless, fertile grassland that made this country one of the great breadbaskets of the world. In the west, the Andes Mountains rise dramatically, home to Aconcagua, the tallest peak in the entire Western Hemisphere, standing just under 6,961 meters, close to 22,838 feet. And in the far south, you enter Patagonia, a windswept, otherworldly region of glaciers, steppe, and fjords that feels like stepping onto another planet entirely. Argentina's population sits at roughly 46 million people, and here's a number that surprises most people. Nearly a third of that entire population, around 15 million people, lives in and around a single city, Buenos Aires, the capital. That makes Buenos Aires one of the largest metropolitan areas in the entire southern hemisphere. A sprawling, elegant, chaotic capital often nicknamed the Paris of South America for its wide boulevards and European-style architecture. Ethnically, Argentina is one of the most European-descended populations in all of Latin America, largely the result of massive waves of Italian and Spanish immigration in the late 1800s and early 1900s, which is exactly why Argentine Spanish sounds so different from the Spanish spoken almost anywhere else, carrying a distinct Italian musicality, and why so many Argentine surnames sound more like they belong in Naples or Sicily than in Madrid. To understand modern Argentina, you actually need to understand its name first, because Argentina comes from the Latin word argentum, meaning silver. Early Spanish explorers arriving in the 1500s heard rumors of a mountain of silver somewhere in the interior. And even though that silver mountain turned out to be mostly myth, the name stuck forever. For nearly 3 centuries, this land was a relatively quiet, remote corner of the Spanish Empire, governed from the viceroyalty of the Rio de la Plata, established in 1776. But by the early 1800s, revolutionary fever was sweeping across South America, and on July 9, 1816, Argentina formally declared independence from Spain, a date still celebrated today as its biggest national holiday. Here's where the story gets genuinely wild, though, because in the late 1800s and early 1900s, Argentina experienced something almost no one talks about anymore. It became one of the richest countries on planet Earth. Fueled by massive beef and grain exports from the fertile Pampas, plus a flood of European immigration and foreign investment, Argentina's economy at one point rivaled that of countries like France, Germany, and even the United States. Buenos Aires built opera houses, grand boulevards, and elegant mansions that still stand today, earning that Paris of South America nickname during this golden era. But then, it all started to unravel. Through the mid-1900s, Argentina cycled through political instability, military coups, and economic mismanagement that would define the rest of its history. This era gave rise to one of the most famous political couples in modern history, Juan Perón and his wife, Eva Perón, known to the entire world simply as Evita. Eva Perón became a symbol of the working class, launching massive social welfare programs, fighting for women's voting rights, and becoming, even after her tragic death from cancer at just 33 years old, one of the most mythologized figures in Latin American history. Her story would later inspire the world-famous musical Evita. Following decades of coups and civilian governments trading power back and forth, Argentina suffered through a brutal military dictatorship from 1976 to to 1983, a period now remembered as the Dirty War, where tens of thousands of people disappeared under the junta's rule. A dark chapter the country continues to reckon with through memorials and ongoing human rights trials today. Since returning to democracy in 1983, Argentina has struggled economically in a way that genuinely fascinates economists worldwide. The country has defaulted on its sovereign debt multiple times, faced hyperinflation crises that wiped out savings overnight, and cycled through currency collapses that would terrify most Western nations. And yet, through every single one of these crises, everyday Argentines have developed a level of resilience, creativity, and outright stubborn joy for life that visitors constantly describe as unlike anywhere else on Earth. Argentina is a federal republic, similar in structure to the United States, made up of 23 provinces, plus the autonomous city of Buenos Aires. It has a president who serves as both head of state and head of government, elected by popular vote for 4-year terms, along with a bicameral Congress split into a Senate and a Chamber of Deputies. The president governs from the Casa Rosada, literally the Pink House, an iconic pink-colored presidential palace overlooking the Plaza de Mayo in downtown Buenos Aires, famous worldwide as the balcony where Eva Perón once addressed adoring crowds below. Unlike Gulf monarchies, where wealth flows down through government grants funded by oil and gas, Argentina's government relief system has developed differently, shaped by decades of economic crisis. The country runs one of the most extensive social welfare systems in Latin America, including universal child allowance, a monthly payment to lower-income families for every child, meant to combat poverty and keep kids in school. Free public health care, available to every resident citizen or not, through the public hospital system. Genuinely free at the point of service, funded through taxation. Free public education, including free tuition at public universities. And this one genuinely shocks people, even at the graduate level, even for many international students, at prestigious institutions like the University of Buenos Aires, which regularly ranks among the best universities in all of Latin America. Pension and retirement systems, though heavily strained over the decades by inflation, still provide baseline retirement income for citizens who've paid into the system. Subsidized utilities, particularly on electricity, gas, and public transportation in Buenos Aires, where a subway ride can cost just a small fraction of what it costs in cities like New York or London. Here's the twist that makes Argentina's story so different from a place like Qatar. This is a country genuinely trying to provide first-world social benefits, while wrestling with an economy that has struggled for decades with inflation, sometimes exceeding 100% per year, meaning prices can double within 12 months. Many Argentines have adapted by converting their savings into US dollars whenever possible, and it's genuinely common to see people quoting real estate prices in dollars rather than the local peso, just to protect value against inflation. So, what actually powers Argentina's economy beyond the chaos everyone's heard about? First, agriculture, and specifically, beef. Argentina has one of the highest rates of beef consumption per person of any country on Earth, and its grass-fed cattle, raised across the endless pampas grasslands, are considered among the finest in the world. This is a country where a proper asado, a traditional barbecue involving hours of slow-grilled meat over open flame, isn't just a meal, it's a genuine social ritual, often lasting an entire afternoon into the evening. Beyond beef, Argentina is one of the largest exporters of soybeans, corn, and wheat on the planet, a legacy of that same fertile pampas land that made it rich a century ago. But here's the resource most people outside South America don't know about: lithium. Argentina sits inside what's known as the Lithium Triangle, alongside Chile and Bolivia, holding some of the largest lithium reserves on Earth, the exact metal needed for electric vehicle batteries and modern technology. As the world shifts toward electric cars, Argentina's salt flats in provinces like Jujuy and Catamarca have quietly become some of the most strategically important land on the entire planet, drawing massive foreign investment from battery and auto manufacturers worldwide. Argentina also has meaningful oil and natural gas reserves, particularly from the massive Vaca Muerta shale formation in Patagonia, one of the largest shale gas deposits in the world, currently undergoing a huge production boom that many economists believe could reshape the country's entire financial future in the coming decade. And yet, despite sitting on all of this, fertile farmland, lithium, shale gas, and one of the most educated populations in Latin America, Argentina's economy remains famously volatile, plagued by repeated currency crises and, as of recent years, inflation numbers that have made headlines around the world. It's one of the great economic paradoxes on Earth, a nation with genuinely extraordinary natural wealth, still fighting to translate that wealth into lasting financial stability. Despite the economic headlines, Argentina has a genuinely dazzling luxury culture, especially among its upper class in Buenos Aires and the wine country of Mendoza. Argentina is quite simply one of the great polo capitals of the entire world. The Argentine Open, held every year outside Buenos Aires, is considered the most prestigious polo tournament on the planet, and Argentina consistently produces the highest-ranked polo players in the sport's history. Estancias, sprawling countryside ranch estates, some spanning thousands of acres, host polo matches, luxury horseback riding, and gourmet asado dinners for wealthy locals and tourists alike. Some estancias charging thousands of dollars per night for an immersive gaucho lifestyle experience. Then there's wine. The Mendoza region, sitting at the base of the Andes Mountains, has become one of the most celebrated wine regions on Earth, famous above all for Malbec, a bold red grape that found its true home in Argentina's high-altitude vineyards after struggling for centuries in its native France. Luxury wine estates in Mendoza now rival Napa Valley and Bordeaux, offering multi-day wine tourism experiences complete with tasting menus, infinity pools overlooking vineyard rows, and private mountain view villas. Buenos Aires itself has an incredibly refined luxury scene tucked inside neighborhoods like Recoleta and Palermo, elegant French and Italian-style architecture, five-star hotels converted from century-old mansions, high-end steakhouses serving dry-aged beef, and boutique shopping streets that feel plucked straight out of Paris or Milan. And then there's tango. started as a working-class dance in the port neighborhoods of Buenos Aires in the late 1800s, has evolved into one of the most romantic, prestigious art forms associated with Argentine culture worldwide, with elegant tango salons called milongas still filling nightly across the city, some in beautifully restored ballrooms where couples in formal dress move with a precision that looks almost hypnotic to watch. Let's walk through the cities that define this country, starting with the beating heart of it all, Buenos Aires. Buenos Aires is a city of striking contrasts, packed into one metro area of around 15 million people. In the center stands the Obelisco, an enormous white obelisk on the famously wide Avenida 9 de Julio, often cited as one of the widest avenues in the world. Nearby, the elegant Recoleta neighborhood is home to the Recoleta Cemetery, an almost surreal city of ornate marble mausoleums where Eva Perón herself is buried, drawing visitors who walk narrow stone pathways between miniature Gothic chapels built for the country's wealthiest families over the last 2 centuries. Then there's La Boca, a working-class port neighborhood famous for its colorful corrugated metal houses, painted in bright blues, yellows and reds, and for being the birthplace of Boca Juniors, one of the most fanatically supported football clubs on earth, whose home stadium, La Bombonera, is famous for literally shaking when the crowd celebrates a goal. Palermo, one of the trendiest neighborhoods in the city, is packed with leafy parks, boutique hotels, world-class restaurants, and a nightlife scene that regularly keeps going until sunrise. Argentines are famous for eating dinner as late as 10 or 11 at night, with clubs not filling up until 2 or 3 in the morning. Outside the capital, Mendoza sits at the foot of the Andes, wrapped in vineyards and framed by snow-capped mountains, offering some of the most scenic wine tourism on the planet. Further south, you enter Patagonia, home to towns like Bariloche, a lakeside city so strikingly alpine in its architecture that it's often called the Switzerland of South America, known for chocolate shops, ski resorts, and turquoise glacial lakes. And then there's El Calafate, gateway to the Perito Moreno Glacier, an enormous wall of blue ice, still actively advancing even as most glaciers worldwide retreat, where visitors can watch and hear massive chunks of ice carve off into the lake with a sound like distant thunder. Finally, at the very southern tip of the country sits Ushuaia, marketed as the end of the world, the southernmost city on the entire planet, and the final departure point for most expedition cruisers heading to Antarctica. Now let's talk about how everyday Argentines actually live, because this country has a rhythm of life unlike almost anywhere else in the world. In the historic San Telmo neighborhood of Buenos Aires, cobblestone streets host one of the oldest and most beloved markets in the city, the San Telmo Sunday Fair, where antique dealers, leather craftsmen, and silverware vendors have set up stalls for generations, while street tango dancers perform right in the middle of the plaza for tips, drawing crowds who stop mid-stroll, completely captivated. Food is deeply central to Argentine identity, and beyond the famous asado barbecue, everyday life runs on a schedule that surprises most foreigners. Lunch is often late, dinner even later. It's genuinely normal to sit down for dinner at 9 or 10 p.m., sometimes later on weekends. Yerba mate, a bitter herbal tea sipped through a metal straw from a shared gourd, is practically a national ritual, passed between friends, family, and co-workers throughout the day as a symbol of connection and hospitality. Turning down an offered mate can come across as mildly rude. Football isn't just a sport in Argentina. It's closer to religion, which brings us full circle back to where we started this video. This is a country that produced Diego Maradona and, more recently, Lionel Messi, arguably the two greatest football players who have ever lived, both born into working or middle-class families before becoming global icons. When Argentina won the 2022 World Cup, an estimated 4 to 5 million people flooded the streets of Buenos Aires for the victory parade, one of the largest public gatherings in the country's entire history. And everyday life carries real economic pressure too. Many Argentines juggle multiple jobs, closely track the ever-shifting exchange rate between pesos and dollars, and have developed an almost unmatched resourcefulness for adapting to sudden economic shifts, all while maintaining a culture famous worldwide for warmth, late-night socializing, and finding joy even during hard times. Now, let's finally go deep into the story we opened this video with, because it deserves the full explanation. The Iglesia Maradoniana, founded in 1998 by a group of devoted football fans in Rosario, Argentina, was created as a tongue-in-cheek but genuinely organized tribute to Diego Maradona, widely considered one of the greatest football players in history. Today, the church claims hundreds of thousands of self-declared followers across the globe. The church's calendar literally begins in the year 1960, the year Maradona was born, meaning followers celebrate certain dates using DD instead of AD, standing for Después de Diego or After Diego. There are 10 commandments deliberately mirroring Christian tradition, including rules like the ball must never be stained. As Maradona himself once famously said, the ball should never be dirtied by being touched with the foot carelessly. Declare unconditional love for football and defend the Argentine national team's colors above all else.
Primero, la pelota no se mancha. Segundo, amar al fútbol por sobre todas las cosas. Tercero, declarar tu amor incondicional por Diego y el buen fútbol. Cuarto, defender la camiseta argentina, respetando a la gente.
There's even a version of the Lord's Prayer, rewritten as Our Diego, who art on the pitches, thanking him for the hand of God, referring to Maradona's infamous, controversial handball goal against England in the 1986 World Cup, a moment so legendary in Argentina that it's celebrated rather than seen as controversial. Followers can even hold Maradonian weddings, officiated in front of Maradona altars, some conducted by church members dressed in mock religious robes, blending genuine reverence with playful celebration. When Maradona passed away in November 2020, the entire nation entered an outpouring of grief that felt genuinely national in scale. 3 days of official mourning were declared by the Argentine government itself, with tens of thousands lining up for hours outside the Casa Rosada, the very presidential palace we talked about earlier, just to walk past his coffin. It's the perfect symbol for Argentina as a whole, equal parts passionate, theatrical, resilient, and completely unlike anywhere else on Earth. let's close out with some of the wildest and most surprising laws and cultural quirks in Argentina. First, mate etiquette actually has informal social rules so strict they might as well be law. Adding sugar without asking, or worse, saying thank you after finishing your turn with the mate gourd when you don't want more, are both social mistakes. In mate culture, saying gracias is actually interpreted as a polite way of declining more, so plenty of confused tourists have unintentionally cut themselves off from more mate simply by being too polite. Argentina has genuinely strict currency exchange laws. For years, Argentines faced restrictions on how many US dollars they could legally buy, giving rise to an entire informal, semi-tolerated black market exchange rate nicknamed the Dollar Blue, where people trade pesos for dollars at rates dramatically different from the official bank rate, a completely normal, openly discussed part of everyday financial life. There's a peculiar law around inheritance. Argentina enforces forced heirship rules, meaning parents generally cannot fully disinherit their children, no matter what's written in a will. A portion of the estate is legally guaranteed to children by default, a rule inherited from old Spanish civil law traditions. And here's a fun one. In 2012, Argentina passed one of the most progressive gender identity laws in the entire world at the time, allowing individuals to change their legal gender on official documents without requiring surgery, psychiatric evaluation, or judicial approval. A law that was, at the time, considered years ahead of many wealthier nations. Finally, jaywalking and traffic laws in Buenos Aires exist mostly in theory. Crossing wherever feels convenient and creative, assertive driving through roundabouts and intersections is simply how the city functions. Visitors are often stunned by how loosely enforced official traffic rules appear to be, compared to how strictly they're written on paper. So there you have it, Argentina, a country that gave the world tango, world-class beef, Malbec wine grown at the foot of the Andes, and a genuine organized religion built around a football player many still call a saint. A nation shaped like a blade, running from subtropical jungle to the edge of Antarctica, that once rivaled the wealthiest countries on Earth, that has crashed and rebuilt its economy more times than almost any nation alive today, and yet somehow, through every single crisis, has never lost its passion, its warmth, or its absolutely unmatched flair for turning even hardship into something worth celebrating at 2 in the morning on a Buenos Aires dance floor. From the Church of Maradona, to glaciers older than written history, to lithium fields that might just power the next century of technology, Argentina remains one of the most fascinating, contradictory, and genuinely alive countries on the entire planet. If this video uncovered a side of Argentina you never knew existed, make sure to subscribe, because next time we're heading somewhere just as unbelievable. And I'll see you in the next video.